Hey guys, it is Seatin here, the self-proclaimed man of legends. Now in this video I'm going to show you quickly how to do Intrepid drowned horse and give you a bit of guidance. So on with the show. First up we have Assault Commander Juro, who is pretty much a loot pinata is a simple way to put it. It's a very easy boss. He only has about 2 mechanics. Now the first one is he's going to summon somebody in front of him and says like, for example, Seatin stands to attention, and that person's going to be dragged in front of the boss. The boss is constantly doing like this big cleave, which hits anyone in front of it for about 15k roughly, sort of in standard gear. I mean, if you're a warrior and you've got a lot of plate armor, it might be slightly less, and if you're a mage it might be slightly more, but basically yeah, this cleave doesn't really seem to do enough damage to one shot anyone. Haven't seen anybody die from it. I mean, you could get very unlucky with a critical strike and actually die from it, but I'm not entirely sure if it actually can crit in this version. So basically, as soon as you get pulled in, you basically just move out. The tank can faff about with rotating the boss, but really that's not needed. I mean, the best sort of healing setup, I know all this footage is in a pug, but for this boss you can use a purifier, and that will be more enough. You know, you can just heal the tank and then shield the person that is dragged in front of the boss. The only other mechanic on this fight is a dispel, so basically he's going to say somebody can't hide, and that person's going to get turned into a sea cap. They just need to be dispelled. Yeah, that's it for the first boss. A very simple boss, very easy to get loot from. Just make sure you have about over 16k health and you'll be fine doing it, and if you're going into rage you should have more than that health anyway, so that's not a problem. Now moving on to the second boss. This boss is slightly more difficult, and there are a few ways of doing this. Now, in this video, what we do is we use one tank, and we drag the boss to where the stairs are, as you're about to see in a second. It's rogue tank, so just wanting to get some aggro, and then port out, and we just go absolutely full out on the boss. Now, with most DPS groups, you shouldn't have a problem doing this. You'll notice we're using 2 healers here. It can be done with a single healer. I've solo healed this in a purifier spec, but most times it's probably best to use a purifier and a chloromancer, or possibly a purifier and a really good bard, because there is a bit of AoE healing going out. So the main mechanic is just you want to nuke the boss. There'll be sort of nests of ads that are spawning around the room, but if you keep on nuking the boss, they'll despawn before they actually reach the boss, so they won't be a problem. The other thing is you want to be fairly spread out from your raid members ideally. Now I know this video isn't showing too much of that because everybody's stacked up to the left hand side, but what he does is he does a debuff on somebody which will snare them, and then after 4 seconds that person will silence every nearby player and prevent them from doing any action. So yeah, that's not ideal. Now you'll also notice there are 2 ads that are spawning called cripplers. Now, due to sort of the gear of the tank and sort of the power of the healers, these can actually usually be ignored. I mean, you're welcome to kill them and cleave them down, but in all honesty, I think they're fairly easily ignored with tank's gear and healer's capability. So literally, this boss, the easiest tactic is just tank him by the stairs and burn him down. You know, and he goes down very easy. And a nice bit of rogue tanking loot there, and we are on to the next boss. Now, one thing about the next boss is that the main mechanic on it, which will actually wipe you, is quite buggy. It's a mechanic known as Ice Shard, which is an interrupt. So sometimes what he's going to do is he's going to cast 1 Ice Shard and then not cast any Ice Shards for like 30 seconds, and sometimes he's going to cast 3 Ice Shards in a row. So ideally you want to have 3 people assigned to interrupt Ice Shard, and also the tank being ready for cooldowns just in case an Ice Shard does get through. So it's kind of complicated there because it's very unreliable, but ideally what you want to have is 3 people set on interrupting Ice Shard. Now, apart from that, there are sort of 2 kind of main mechanics to alternate. Now, the first one is this kind of tidal wave thing that you're going to see. So you need to follow the direction that the current is flowing. So at the moment it started off, I believe this is clockwise, and then what's going to happen is about halfway through it's going to go anti-clockwise. You'll also notice a few sea caps scattered across the room. They're not too much of a problem. What they'll do is they'll just bite random people in the ass and snare them. Ideally, you want to, throw a few dots on them and try and get them down, but as you can see here, I'm being very DPS whorish and just, you know, continuing my main focus on the boss. So, after this, well, the only other kind of mechanic is really he's just going to do an AoE which deals about 10k every 20 or so seconds, so that's not really anything to worry about. It's just a bit of passive AoE damage that a Bard or a Chloromancer can easily heal through. So going on to the final mechanic, in a second the room is going to get, as you can see now actually, is going to get divided into 3 segments, so it always goes, and only one of these segments will be safe to stand in, so it always goes middle, outer, middle, inner, middle, and then it ends, and then everybody's alive and safe. So as you can see, we get in the middle. It seems a bit buggy, but apart from that, you know, it's a very easy mechanic to deal with, and if you do happen to get hit by it, and if you only take 1 tick, the healers should have plenty of time to top you up before you do take another tick, because I failed there a couple of times, because I am a massive noob at heart. So moving on to the last boss, which is High Priestess Hydris. Now, when you initially pull this boss, what you'll have is this sort of big cult pack down the bottom. They actually don't hit that hard at all on the tanks, and it's very easy to sort of pick them all up and AoE them down, which is a tactic that most people are employing. As I did mention earlier, guys, this is actually a pug run that I'm in, and sort of the speed the bosses are going down in is pretty damn crazy. I don't know if that's due to minor myths DPS, just sort of if you have a look at the damage meters on the various bosses. But yes, this is a pug, and pretty much every pug that I've been in just grabs all of these ads and AoEs them down, just due to the fact that if you do get them down pretty quickly like we did then, you have quite a bit of time to change spec before the boss comes, as when you initially engage this, the boss sort of starts up at the top of the stairs and she's going to slowly float her way down, as you'll be able to see on screen, and she is coming down. But basically, what people like to do is start off in AoE specs and then change, but, you know, I was feeling a bit lazy, so I just stuck with Inquisitor. Some people like to go Saboteur or Kabbalist or Champion or whatever, you know, is really good for that trash bag, but I'm pretty lazy. So, yeah, a bit of idling about here usually. So it gives a bit of time for the tank to get ready to pick up the boss. Now, the first mechanic, and one of the most important things to look out if you're healing this boss, I believe on this boss we're actually only using 1 healer, which is a Warden, and we might also be using a Bard as well by the looks of things, so it's fairly easy to heal. But as you can see, our tank was having a bit of trouble being topped up. But in all honesty, he's a bit overgeared, so maybe if you had a slightly less geared tank, you'd need another healer. I'd say this fight is definitely easily solo healed by a Chloromancer or a good Sentinel. The main thing to look out is if your healer is, first off, you need to dispel the debuff which turns people into a C-cap, similar to the one on the first boss, the one that I had, or people can break free out of it. That is an alternate solution. And also, when number 1 dies, which is the C spawn ad, and when this basically ad spawns, first off, you ideally want to cleave it down, because when it dies, what it does is it gives out a debuff which deals like 20% of the boss's health, and also deals, well, gives a debuff to all the people in the bubble at the moment, which reduces, well, does a fair bit of damage to them, and the healer ideally wants to dispel that. Now, unfortunately, in this video, you're going to see, well, the healer basically doesn't dispel it, and they all still manage to survive with minimal healing. So, yeah, I mean, ideally you can dispel that, and I think it'd be a good idea, but if not, as you can see there, with pretty much no healing at all, everybody survived. So, shortly after the ad dies, usually, timing-wise, she's going to fly up into the air and start casting water spouts everywhere. Now, you want to avoid these while killing hives, marked 1 and 2. And the first hive will be fairly near the stairs, and the other one is directly behind where I am at the moment. Lots and lots and lots of ads are going to come out of these hives, and they don't have much health, so you can pretty much ignore them and just focus on getting the hives down. I think that's the main thing. You ideally want to get both of the hives down as fast as possible, so you have as much time as you physically can on the boss, because ideally you want to get the boss down before she does her second bubble mechanic. Now, I've yet to see any pugs live to the second bubble mechanic, but just to make you guys aware that if you last about another 2 or 3 minutes longer than this video is, what's going to happen is there's going to be a bubble that spawns, and 3 globs that slowly need to move towards that. Basically, what you need to do is you need to kill the globs and then get in the bubble before she finishes detonating her big AoE. But once again, I've yet to see any pugs sort of get to that mechanic, so I'm a bit hesitant, and I literally can't get footage of it because every run it's going down so quick, and even with groups like this where everyone's fairly good, there are still quite a few bad people in this group, but just everything just gets zerged down so fast because it is a tier 1 raid and everyone's insanely overgeared. So that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, there's not too much to look out for. Just nuke the boss, nuke the ad when it comes if you're a healer, dispel all you can. When the hives come up, nuke the hives. That's pretty much it for Intrepid Drowned Halls, guys. Any questions or anything, leave them in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer any that I possibly can. Thank you once again for watching. If you like this video, like, subscribe, tell a friend. Take care, and thank you for watching.